Happy Monday, everybody. We're back on the program. Weekend survived. St. Patty's week. Rocking that Violent Gents. Hard work St. Patty's Day shirt from 4 or 5 years ago. Stuff it. Welcome to Cooperville Live. Glad you are a part of things. Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch. Made a couple of adjustments to some of the pages, so it's now the Cooperville Live Facebook page, and also on Instagram, Cooperville Live. Just a couple of minor adjustments as we're working on some cool stuff behind the scenes. Working on cool stuff. That's what we do. Well, we work, and then we work on cool stuff, and then we work more. This is nonstop. I worked all weekend. I'm like, got up this morning, like, no. I don't want to do it today, but guess what? I did it. I did it. You did it. We all did it. Got up and got after it. So kudos to us. Big show coming up today. Dr. J. Dr. J is back. Dr. J LaGuardia is back on the program. He's coming up in under 10 minutes. Talk to him about some COVID stuff, and we're going to talk to him also about some entrepreneurial things as well. Because we have some things we're working on. And I'm going to get Dr. J's advice. Maybe you can take some of that advice as you will. So, momentarily, chat with him. Also, the guys from 3 Gun Whiskey are going to be on the program. That's coming up later on this hour, so make sure you give us some time to join in on that. That'll be at about 5:45 today. Wherever you are watching, you can join in and be a part of the show as well in the comment sections of wherever it is that you are watching. Perhaps I pointed to one of those locations. I'm not sure. Who knows? But a big show and a big week this week. Joe is in the house watching on the tube, Joe. Got us on the YouTube. I love it. Subscribe on the YouTube. Subscribe on Twitch. Follow us on Facebook. I don't know, man. We're making some choices here. We may move the program to exclusively be on 1 or 2 platforms instead of all 3. I don't know. We'll make that decision down the road. Just rolling thoughts around and stuff. But always good to see Joe jumping in on the show. You can jump in as well. Comment section's wide open. Also, you can join our Patreon. That link is in the comment sections. Just posted it right now. Exclusive content, audio, video, updates from the soon-to-be-launched Cooperville Clothing Company. Yes, that's one of our big things, one of our big announcements. We'll be talking about that coming up over the next couple of weeks. So I had a great conversation late last week with a great friend of mine, and we started talking about apparel and doing things for the show. And so we're going to be working on a whole bunch of cool stuff and then expanding that brand actually to do some more strictly apparel. So we're in the process, man. We're working on stuff. Dr. J is in the house. I'm going to try to get him on here. I see these. Dr. J, if you're watching, I'm going to try to, it says devices not connected. Says you'll need to connect your mic and cam before I can add you to the stream. So I'm not sure if that's on my end or your end, but maybe try logging out and logging back in, and we'll get you on here. There's my boy. Look at this fella. Blacklight District all up in the hizzy. Dudesky working on new music. What do you got, like 10 songs ready to go? If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching the program on YouTube, make sure that you go follow Blacklight District on YouTube. Dude's my boy, and we're going to be working on some cool stuff together. But he's just murdering. He's just murdering out there. So good to see you, my friend. Glad that you are here and a part of the program today. Lots of cool stuff coming down the pike. We're going to be actually, I think Blacklight and I are going to be doing some cool stuff on the YouTube very soon. So stay tuned for that. And again, like I said, if you're watching here on our live stream on YouTube, jump on over to Blacklight District and give them a subscribe. Hit the subscribe button for them. It's been a crazy day in the news. Anybody watch the Grammy Awards last night? Apparently nobody watched the Grammy Awards last night. Well, hi, Don. Welcome. if you know this page, now you are here. Welcome to it. Blacklight soon. I'm excited, man. Those new tunes. I believe he said the most raw, real music he's ever done, and dude's been killing it for a while. So that's pretty impressive. I'm excited to hear the new stuff, man. You know how to get a hold of me. Send me that stuff. Let me listen to some of those tracks. But anyway, the Grammys last night, not very well watched. You've seen kind of a lot of this over the course of the last couple of, well, not years necessarily, but more recently, a lot of people starting to tune out of watching award shows. And this story comes from the Daily Caller, but they're talking about the reason that it is because it's starting to feel like every time you watch an award show, it's really just artists and actresses telling people, little folks, how to think and how to feel. It's like, thank you for this. Now, here is my list of things I'd like to tell you that what you need to do. Like, wait a minute, what? Sing your song and get out of here. Yeah, Dr. J, your stuff's still not connected. Not sure what's up with that. Strange ongoings with the technology. Maybe Big Brother is trying to shut the show down. Who knows? But again, this is according to the Daily Caller. The TV ratings are out for the 2021 Grammys, and the numbers are brutal, they say, according to the Hollywood Reporter. The Popular Music Awards show averaged 7.89 million viewers on Sunday night on CBS. To put that into perspective about how bad it was, the 2020 show averaged 16.54 million viewers. That means the numbers from Sunday night's show were down by more than 50% from the previous year. No matter how you slice it, an absolutely brutal night for the Grammys. Didn't watch. We watched some, but I can't remember what the hell the name of the movie we watched was. No, some alien sci-fi, really good, really well done. I don't remember the name of it, but I do know that Rihanna was in it, and like Ethan Hawke made an appearance for like a scene. It was crazy. I don't remember the name of the movie though, but it was good. Long, like 2 hours and 50 minutes. So instead of investing my time in finding out what's going on in the Grammy world, we watched a movie instead. Again, this is according to the story by the Daily Caller. It's also the latest sign that people have seemingly given up on award shows, and it's not hard to see why. They went from being fun to being about lecturing regular Americans. Even when an award show doesn't do that, everyone just assumes for good reason that's the base template. As a result, people have stopped caring. I didn't watch. There was outrage, though. There was outrage from the Grammys, and not because of the fact that WAP was performed. Not that wasn't the reason that it was that there was issue. The issue was because of comedian Bill Burr. That was the big controversy about the Grammys, is that Bill Burr made some comments and hurt some people's feelings. So I don't know. That was the only clip of the Grammys that I watched, was the Bill Burr thing. That was it. That was the only reason. But apparently it wasn't the only one. Ratings cut in half last night's Grammys. So like I said, I think people are just getting sick and tired of celebrities telling us how to think and feel. I mean, just my 2 cents for what my 2 cents is worth. And it's worth about 2 cents. Joe says, I rather would have watched paint dry. That can be fun, though. You know, it's like what do you do in the summer or the springtime in Wisconsin? You listen to the corn grow. That's like a thing. That's a pastime. I can't say I've ever done that, but again, I'm not a big pot smoker, but I imagine those are correlated, right? Like we were just hanging out, like listening to the corn grow. Is that all you were doing? Just hanging out in a cornfield? I don't think so. Didn't miss much on the Grammys. What's up, Mikey? Good to see you, buddy. Yeah. I heard that the Eddie Van Halen tribute was like 15 seconds long. I'm like, the warm-up to Eruption is like 30 seconds long. Like, they don't even get to him playing the actual guitar, and he's just messing around. That's 30 seconds. How do you give Eddie Van Halen, in memoriam, how do you give him 15 seconds? Not a fan. I am a fan of Dr. J, though. I'm a huge fan. If I had my t-shirt company up and running, my first shirt's going to say Dr. J's #1 fan, and I'm going to wear it on the show. Dr. J LaGuardia is on the program. How you doing, my friend?
Coop, how you doing, man?
It's St. Patty's week. As you can see, I busted out a different color other than black t-shirts. So I feel like this is a big thing. I feel like I'm adding to my personality.
Green's a good color on you. Whether you're Irish or not, it works.
Well, as my grandpappy used to say, everybody's Irish around this time of year. We need to find a reason to be Irish.
And it's a great reason to drink a Guinness.
Why not? Except when St. Patty's Day falls on like a Wednesday. Like, just doesn't have the same thing. But how was your weekend, sir? Good stuff?
Fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah.
Get out and enjoy some of this. As of the last couple of days, nice Wisconsin weather. It was beautiful out. We had some 60-degree days.
Yeah, we did. We also had our 1-year anniversary of our F45 studio on Saturday. So also hosted a seminar. So it was a busy weekend.
Yeah, I saw there was some video posted on the F45 Eau Claire Instagram page, people getting after it on the weekend. Love to see that, man. I love to see people who don't let the Monday through Friday be a part of their regimen. They get after it on the weekends too.
Yeah, Saturday's a big day. People like to, get their exercise on before they begin their day and enjoy their weekend. So it was an amazing turnout and everyone had fun. Exercise should be fun. It shouldn't be work.
Yeah, and the real benefit, obviously there's long-term benefits to it, but the feeling after a workout is the reason that you put in the workout in the first place. When you get done, you're like, I feel better about 99% of the things that are happening in my life. I just feel when I go running in the morning, running is not my favorite thing to do, but it's what I do every day. After I get done, I'm like, now the day can begin.
Yeah, no one ever finished a workout and go, gee, I wish I didn't do that.
Right. Yeah. There's always instant gratification comes instantly after the workout is done. But we're getting into the 1-year anniversary, 15 days to flatten the curve. So I don't know if we get cake for that or if there's like I don't know. We can't blow out candles anymore. That's faux pas now. So maybe not a cake. Perhaps everybody gets their own individual cupcake. So that's nice. But you're starting to see some trends, Dr. Jane, and it's been 2 weeks since we had you on. I just want to get your 2 cents on this. And I want to talk about some of your mentoring and coaching stuff that you do for entrepreneurs. But the breaking news last week was that the state of Texas announced they were going to be opening their doors full-fledged, even to the point where the Texas Rangers, for their last 2 exhibition games, which happened to be against the Brewers, and then their opening day game, are going to have full capacity at their ballpark, which is a 40,000-seat stadium. And really, the governor came out and said, look, Texas is going to be open for business. If you own a business, you can be open at 100% capacity, lifted the mask mandate. And it feels like the rest of the world, even though there was the obvious condemnation of how dare ye make people make their own decisions for themselves. But it seems like there's going to be a lot of eyes on Texas in the next couple of weeks just to see, okay, how is it working? And if everything doesn't have a major explosion, at least in the eyeballs of those who are other states' powers that be, we could see some other major openings, at least across the country.
Yeah, we've actually seen 3 states, Mississippi, and I'm trying to think what the third state was that followed right after.
It was one in the Northeast. I think it was it Connecticut, or it was one of the ones up in the arm.
Okay.
One of those states opened back up. Connecticut.
Yeah, was it Connecticut? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, we can get into some political science here, but that's the beauty of our republic is the Federalist Papers say that basically each state is an entity unto its own, and the federal government has some jurisdiction over actually, even in the Constitution, doesn't have jurisdiction over education, but it's taken on some of those federal roles. But here's where you're seeing states acting based on what their needs are, based on what they're seeing in their communities, and acting as if an individual entity is taking actions to protect their citizens, to get their businesses back open, get people to live life once again.
I know the band guys that I've had on that have been, restricted, severely restricted from touring. And I know you have a musical background, and so you respect the game. And a lot of these guys are itching to play so bad. And the first thing that they said was, it's going to be tough to find a venue that's not booked for the next 6 to 8 months in Texas, because if they're opening up, that they're going to be flooded with bands that just want to get out and play and have the ability to line up a tour. And again, that's going to be you hope for some of these other governors and these other states that is the turnkey for them to say, okay, because it feels like, I mean, nobody messes with Texas, right? Everything's bigger in Texas. Texas is the People's Republic of Texas. They're not even 100% sure they're committed to the United States just yet. But obviously they abide by the federal guidelines. But they took the big step, and it does feel like there's a lot of eyeballs that are going to be on them. Mississippi following suit. Obviously, you have Florida, who's been open for a while. Connecticut, I believe, was the next state. You hope that this, outside of what Fauci's spouting off about something started off with Biden 4th of July, and then it was, well, maybe sometime in the summer, and there's never a definitive thing. But it sounds like some states are starting to just say, look, we're done with the crap. We're just going to go ahead and push forward, because economically, mental health wise, people need to get back to a sense of normalcy in their daily lives. Yeah.
Remember 2 weeks to flatten the curve?
Yep. Almost coming up. That is the anniversary. We're starting today. Yeah.
That was 50 weeks ago. Okay. And if you look at the statistics in the graphs, particularly, there's been a lot of comments made comparatively California to Texas and Florida, and they're nearly identical. And in some cases, the states that have been quote unquote open, and California has been in mass lockdown since day one. I know, because they got family out there. You do too.
Yeah.
And statistically, there is no difference. So any logical human being would ask yourself, well, is this approach really working? Because if, they've been wearing masks since day one, social distancing, all this other stuff that, we've been hearing ad nauseum, these other states, which maybe have been a bit more lenient, have not seen any rapid rise or spikes, outside the, comparatively. So I think these legislators are looking at it and say, hey, we got to do what's right for us and not worry about, what the powers that be in Washington, which have been proven time and time and time again to be wrong. I mean, has there been any public official who's backpedaled more than Anthony Fauci? I think that guy lives on roller skates. You know what I'm saying? Because he says one thing, next week it's something different. The man has no credibility in my eyes. For a variety of reasons, the least of which is the fact that he always changes his viewpoint from week to week and month to month. So I don't know how any logically thinking human being would ever listen to him confidently, knowing he knows what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, that's the scary thing about it, because for some of the population, if there's a guy on TV and he has doctor in front of his name, and he's the guy that the government puts out there to be the voice of, I don't want to say reason, because I think we both have we both lean one direction when it comes to Dr. Fauci's reasoning, because it does tend to change. But the scary thing is that you have a percentage of the population that sees a figurehead on TV, and goes, it doesn't matter that he keeps on flipping his story. We just kind of go, okay, well, this is what it is today. I think that's an underlying, it's a little bit frightening of an underlying statement there, because he does go from don't need a mask to we need a mask to the reason I said that is because we need a mask for the hospitals. And then it was, 2 masks, and then it was 3, and now it's 1, and now it's, damn you, Texas, how dare you take this major step? And maybe it's the 4th of July. If I hope some of that population that keeps on nodding and agreeing with what he's saying is going, I'm doing this a lot, and the story keeps on changing on the daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, I know you get out, and there's a real sense of people have had it. They're fed up. There's a percent who will go along with any. In fact, I was trying to find this as you were talking. I've been doing a research on a new podcast I'm going to do, kind of a 1-year anniversary of the COVID, and I've got just a ton of science and data that I'm going to share with our listeners. But one in particular, there was an article written by a gentleman who wrote that they studied back in the 60s after the Nuremberg trials how people would listen to authority and give up their rights and attack their fellow citizens for the perception of safety.
Mm.
If they believed, right, that what they're being told is going to protect them or keep them safe, they would do whatever it would take to maintain that safety, even harm their fellow citizens.
Mm.
And I've had recently, Coop, probably a half a dozen people call me and ask me my views on the vaccination.
Mm.
And I have a personal feeling, but what I try to do is educate them. And I tell them, look, you need to make your own informed decision based on what's right for you and your family. But what I'm going to do is share with you or ask you certain questions to help them come to a conclusion. The first thing I tell them is it's not a vaccine. We need to stop calling it a vaccine. Even the CDC acknowledges it's gene therapy, which is an experiment. It's not been properly studied and analyzed. They skip the animal trials. Usually it takes about 10 years for a vaccine, gene therapy. And the difference between a vaccine and gene therapy is where they're introducing messenger RNA to affect an immune response, as opposed to let's say a flu vaccine where they administer an attenuated virus and then our immune system creates a response towards that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between the two. And so therefore, they're asking me my thoughts and opinions on this, and I take them down this road. And you know what it really comes down to, Coop, is social pressure.
Mm.
The three basic needs humans have is safety, satisfaction, and connection. Three basic human needs. We're all born with this human need. So, as I mentioned before, we're willing to give up our rights, our freedoms for the perception of safety. This first started after 9/11. I mean, I'm from New York. I grew up, my house, I watched them build the World Trade Center from my bedroom. And, when they took those towers down, it wasn't long thereafter that Homeland Security was into effect. And so much of our freedoms were limited. This is the next great reset as far as restricting and limiting freedoms under the guise of safety. But one of the other questions I asked them is it possible to be in the middle of a pandemic and not have the death rates change? And they asked me, what do you mean? I said, if you go to the CDC and you compare from 2014 up to 2020, the death rates are exactly the same. In other words, the same amount of people, within fractional percentage points, have died every single year over the last 8 years. How could that be if there's been 500,000 COVID deaths? Well, what we were classifying as heart disease and cancer and flu have decreased radically. First time in history. Well, how the hell did that happen? There's no been major breakthroughs. People aren't eating any better. They aren't exercising anymore. In fact, they were stuck in their house all year under more stress than ever before. So you're not telling me heart disease went down. So when you look at these statistics and start to think of it logically, ask yourself these questions. It's very hard to come to a certain decision. So ultimately it comes down to peer pressure. My family's forced me, family's putting pressure because their perception that they're going to be safe. When in fact, we know the vaccine A doesn't protect you from getting COVID, and B doesn't protect you from transmitting it, and C will not create herd immunity. We know that for a fact. Hard data. It's an argument. So I say to people when they're trying to make this decision is get as informed and educated as possible. As you're looking at the data, ask yourself, does this make sense to me? And listen to what your gut tells you. Your gut will never lead you down the wrong path. Yeah. And because it's not my responsibility to tell them what to do. It's my job to inform them. That's why I'm going to do this podcast, kind of an overview of the last year about COVID. We're going to talk about everything.
Well, I think that's great. I know of all people that do their research, you are tops on the list. It's a passion of yours to know all the ins and outs and know the numbers and know the stats. And that's why I'm so thankful that you jump on here when you can and we can talk about these things, because I think it's difficult in some cases to watch, because I think if you have family, friends, loved ones that you try to have that, sometimes that conversation can get shut down rather quickly just because of they don't want to hear it, or seemingly they don't care about the actual facts. They don't care about the real numbers. They're like, well, it doesn't, well, I'm just going to get it, or I'm just going to live my life this way just because, again, to them, that's what their gut is telling them, but it's without fact. It's feelings without facts. And that's been a tenuous situation, I think, for a lot of people, because you do have those who, whether they watch this show or they go and they do their own research, that are going, hey, I have some questions about this before I make any decision for myself or my family.
Sure.
And they're starting to educate themselves. And then you have another faction that is like, I don't care about your numbers. I don't care about your truth. I'm going to go ahead and follow, what the narrative is telling me I need to do, because I want to get back to this sense of normalcy. And you heard the CDC that came out with the new guidelines. It was last week or the week before, that were as convoluted as as anything they've released so far. Like, if you get it, you can hang out with people who have it and also people who don't, but you still can't travel. You can be in the same house. You can be outside. And then you have the president who is like, maybe by the 4th of July, you can be in your backyard. And Fauci's like, I don't know about that. Maybe you can get married in the fall. And people are just like, okay, it sounds good. I like all of these things, except I have no idea what I was just told. Like, what are the rules now? And they just go along with it. It's that's the scary part, because if you have people in your family, your friends who go, but can you just like read this or listen to the show, or Dr. J is going to have probably hours plus of information that is going to be dropped in your ears about all the things, research, facts, numbers, truth. Like, just give it a listen.
But you know what? They don't want their perception of safety to be burst, the bubble to be burst, because if you require me, right? It's what's it? It's it's a level of ignorance is bliss. If I don't know, it doesn't hurt me.
Right.
So if I don't do the research, I don't have to face and come to these conclusions or make these decisions. I'm just going to follow, quote unquote, what the experts tell me, because supposedly they know best. Maybe, maybe not. And so it's more out of a fear of literally having to face the reality. And so it's a hope and a shot. It's really what it is. It's literally a hope and a shot. How do I know that? Let me give you one specific fact. Pfizer is now demanding sovereign nations to put up assets, including their bank reserves, military bases, assembly buildings, as collateral for expected vaccine injury lawsuits. They've targeted Argentina and Brazil, demanding that they do so because they know there's going to be mass vaccine lawsuits coming down the road. How do we know that? Pfizer in of itself says specifically they do not know what the long-term impact or effect of this vaccine. And in fact, Moderna in 2017 stopped messenger RNA vaccination research because the outcomes were so bad. Messenger RNA research initially started with the idea this could be the cure for cancer. And unfortunately, it turned out not to be so. So again, all I'm telling people is just go into this with open eyes. 6 months of abuse to your immune system, and that's 2 shots. I mean, they're talking about boosters in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, every year, reintroducing this messenger RNA, which is encoded with a membrane that doesn't allow the messenger RNA to deplete. And this is where the immune response recurs, because the body will eventually see it as a foreign invader and attack it. This is what creates a hyperimmune response. We just don't know how it's going to manifest. I mean, there's some reaction. I mean, certainly we're seeing post-vaccination as far as Bell palsy, anaphylactic, autoimmune diseases, of course, death. There's been, I think the last number I had seen reported, now when we know the reporting data is way underreported, is somewhere excess of 400.
Yeah, I was just reading a story about the Utah mom, Cassidy Krill, who died after her second vaccination shot, and she was, I believe, in her 30s.
Yeah, she was 39.
39, and like super healthy, mother, like super fit, and like said she didn't feel good. All of a sudden she's in the hospital. And then like less than, 24 hours later, she's gone. And it's, the weird thing is you have to dig to find these stories. That's the scary part is they're
And
not.
what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Again, all you have to do is open your mind and just ask yourselves these questions and get off CNN and CNNBC, because they will never give you the complete story. They're only going to share with you the agenda in which they want you to know.
Well, we'll end the COVID conversation on this good note. So, my girlfriend and I went out and went grocery shopping without masks on Sunday, and just kind of bebopped around, did our own damn thing, and got to the checkout. And there was an older gentleman behind us. He was, I'm going to say, he was probably in his early 70s, with not wearing a mask. And we checked out, and he checked out behind us. We ended up meeting at the cart corral, and he, genuinely looked at us and he's like, "It is so good to see human faces again." Yes. I mean, here you have a man in his 70s, and he, again, was taking his risk, not only from, exposure, because he's in obviously in a higher age demographic, but criticism from others who are out. And he approached us and was like, I just want to say that it's so good to see human faces again. And I said, "I apologize. This is the one you have to see, but I'm glad that at least, you got to, have that feeling," and a genuine smile on his face. And it was just a great thing to see, because I think that's another thing that we've touched on the shows that you've been on, is that psychological aspect of things and the effect that it has on mental health and just on overall happiness. Because when you see people out in the masked world, like, and you can kind of sense somebody's demeanor by their eyes. There's not a lot of like happy eyeballs out there, like just out doing my grocery shopping, just having a good old time. Like, everybody just kind of like is like super hyper focused and just kind of a little angsty, like a little angry, kind of, pushing their cart around like it's the last thing that they're going to do. But this gentleman just came up and was showing gratitude for the fact that he got to see, our smiling faces, just out doing something simple like grocery shopping. So it was a good story. Want to touch base with you on some entrepreneurial things. I know that's, a big part of what you do as a mentor and as a coach. You've seen probably both ends of this, but there has been some really great success stories from entrepreneurs during all this, and a lot of the stuff that's getting reported obviously is about struggle. As a business owner myself, I saw some struggles, but there's seemingly also been a boom in growth in the new business and / people who had businesses and were able to, elevate their game per se during all this. What are some of the things that, with the clients that you have, that you've talked to, some of the keys to their success during a time when, there's a lot of people who are not being as successful?
It's a great question. In every economic downturn, there has been stories of massive success. Do you know more millionaires were created during the Great Depression up to that point than any other time in history?
Yeah.
So to answer your question simply is this: we get to choose every day how we show up. We are either going to react to our environment or respond in a way in which we choose. I mentioned to you, I've been on a social media fast and news fast for doesn't mean I don't read, but for about 5 months now. And what I've learned personally, and the clients that I work with and other people, is when you focus on what you can control, first of all, is your mindset and your attitude. Then you focus on the actions and behaviors that you can take. All the other noise around you goes away. And so personally, we've seen a massive growth in our business. Once we shifted from all the peripheral noise to get laser focus on the things that we can control each and every day. So I would say to your professionals and entrepreneurs out there, every day, get up with intention. Focus on what you need to do today, 2 or 3 things to move the needle to get you closer to your goals, either for that day, that week, that month, that year. Be intentional in the actions that you take and the energy that you put out, because the world reflects our thoughts. So if we're living in fear and if we're surrounded by negativity, that's what we're going to experience. And it's impossible to grow to grow in that environment. So focus on what you can control, keep your head down, grind every day, and you will be successful. I promise.
I love it. Dr. J, when can we expect that that podcast to come out on the 1 year anniversary of 15 Days to Flatten the Curve?
Actually, that's a great title, man.
No, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. It's called, I think it's new math. That's what the kids are learning. My son's learning new math. I'm like, that sounds about right. 15 days to 1 year anniversary of 15 Days to Flatten the Curve.
That's right. That's right. I'm working on it now. I just got all my data together. Probably going to record it this week. As far as my cue, probably early April.
Awesome. The Power, Passion, Prosperity podcast. Dr. J. LaGuardia, always a pleasure, my friend. Take care of you. My best to the family, and we'll get you back on here very soon, my friend. Thanks,
Coop. You be well.
Awesome. Dr. J, always a pleasure to have on. Dropping those knowledge bombs, just like your head should explode after all that. Just absorb that stuff. And once the podcast does drop, we'll throw a link on all the platforms that we stream on, as well as all the social media stuff, so you guys can get the knowledge. If anybody does his research better than Dr. J, I don't know that person. He does not exist. There you go. Coming up in just a couple minutes, we're going to have the guys from 3 Gun Whiskey join the program. They are going to be hanging out, and we're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about getting out and doing some shows and outlaw shit. It's going to be badass. So stick around for that. It's coming up in just a couple of minutes. We'll throw a couple of comments on here. Joe, I love listening to Dr. J. I always love having him on. I throw him curveballs all the time, and he's just like, boom, there you go. There's your answer. Love having him on. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, come back with 3 Gun Whiskey. Go follow them on all of the social medias. Same thing with Dr. J, at Dr. J LaGuardia. He is on his professional pages, not his personal ones, because he's still on his social media fast. So check in with the guys in just a bit. Take a break. Stand by. Be back with more Cooperville Live in just a bit.
Rough in the
And we're back on Cooperville Live. Thank you all for staying tuned in, Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitch. And big thanks to Dr. J for jumping back on the show. That new podcast can be dropping hopefully in early April, and getting excited for that. Always check it out. Power, Passion, Prosperity Podcast, hosted by Dr. J. He also does a bunch of other cool shit, and he jumps on the show once a week, which is awesome. So I had Warren Garrett on the program last week, and we were just talking about music and stuff, and him and I were kind of going back and forth on Instagram about things, and through him, I got introduced to this band 3 Gun Whiskey, and I was like, those are some of my favorite things. I like Mary Poppins. I'm like, these are a few of my favorite things. Guns and whiskey. Let's check this shit out. I mean, outlaw country to the core. And I reached out. Actually, they reached out to me. Jed left me like the first time ever I got a voice message on Instagram, which I thought was the coolest thing. I think that's fucking genius. So we chatted back and forth and have him on the show. We got Cobra Commander already ready to have 3 Gun Whiskey on the program. So we bring him in, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the guys in 3 Gun Whiskey. How you doing, fellas?
Pretty good, brother. How you doing? Doing good.
Doing well. So let me, I'm gonna see if I get this straight. See if I did my research. I got Brandon, and I got Jed, and I got Jake.
Yep, nailed it.
There's the show. Thank you all for tuning in. I feel like I won something today. First up, fellas, how you guys doing?
Pretty good. How you doing today?
You know, another day, well, the show is free, so this is another day. But no, it's super cool, the correlation of how I ended up getting introduced to you guys through Warren, and was checking out the tunes, and I fell in love with the sound. It is like I said, it's outlaw country to the bone. It's dirty, gritty rock and roll meets country meets a good swift kick in the teeth, man. Tell me about putting this band together. Have you guys known each other for a long time, or is this kind of a culmination of bringing people in and putting together the product?
We're from a little town in Illinois, and I knew of Brandon. I grew up here, but left in middle school. My dad was in the military, and I went in the military. I just moved back here about 5 years or 8 years ago, and kind of just started playing with a buddy in the garage and decided we were going to start a band together. We needed a bass player. Old Brandon here's like the local, everybody knows if anybody needs to play a bass guitar, it's Big Brandon here, he'll take it. And we started playing with him. We added Dave Ackman, who's not here tonight, he's working, our lead guitar player, who, if you've heard the music, the dude's like phenomenal is kind of an understatement.
Right.
Yep. Dude's amazing. And Jake just joined us here about 4 months ago.
Yeah, December, I think.
Yeah, December. He's a local kid, and yeah, we all live within 15 miles of each other, and we started kind of getting after it pretty hard about a year and a half ago. I wanted to focus on writing some original tunes and just expanding what we were doing. I mean, I think anybody in music knows you could play local all the time, but you can only ask your buddies to show up to so many shows. You gotta stretch your legs and get out. And before COVID, that in 2019, we played, I think, like 10 or 12 states we really went after it. Then COVID hit and just dried all that up. So we're really kind of focusing on this summer, hoping all the restrictions lift and we can really. I think you're up in Wisconsin. We played up in Green Bay a couple dates in
Nice.
19, and yeah, that's kind of how we started. We started like everybody says it, but we literally started in my machine shed, drinking, playing cheap guitars, and, kind of grown from there. And they said Brandon and I have been together since the beginning, and Jake is a huge addition to us. I'm gonna pat him on his back here real quick. Best drummer I've personally played with, and it's really adding to our sound. And like you kind of mentioned, the mixing the country and the rock and the like, to pick a genre for us, I don't think is really fair to us and our CD. Even it's kind of a pain in the butt when people even ask what we play, because I could just say simply rock and roll, country music, southern rock. I mean, it's
Mm.
I don't even know how any of these guys would explain it. It's just as hard as explaining. You just got to tell them, hey, you got to listen to it. So it's yeah, that's how we got started, was just drinking and playing guitars and having fun.
I think that's the key, though. I think the key to standing out in any genre is to be genre-less, is to have your own sound, to be unique to kind of what you feel and what you want to sound like. Because there's a lot of artists out there that are just like, I want to emulate and sound exactly like that person because that person has had some success. And I think if you're a fan of music, if I shouldn't say a fan, if you listen to music with intent, you're like, that motherfucker's fake. Like he doesn't really know that. I bring this correlation up all the time in pop music when a 13-year-old writes a song about love and you're like, shut the fuck up. Like, where do you know? You know nothing about love. Oh, what did she do? Did she not check the yes, I like you box in homeroom? Like what's love? When you have a 13-year-old writing it. But I think if you adapt to your own sound and all of the influences that you have, that's what makes you unique. That's why a band is out doing 12 different states, not 12 states in that short of a period of time. That's getting after it. And I think that the music goes along with that kind of drive too, because you have to do that many states. Because a lot of times when you start a band, you're like, well, we'll play the local place, 3 or 4 times, and then maybe we'll go out of town. But to hit the states, man, that's kudos to you on the drive and the energy to get out and do that shit.
It's I think these guys will probably attest to it and cuss it in the same breath. I don't really settle very easy, so I'm constantly like, let's do this. My wife hates it. I'm just constantly just pushing to do more and more and more and more and more and more and more, no matter what I'm doing. And like I said, I think one of the big things, again, to talk these boys up is work ethic in any small business. Because I mean, no matter, even though we're playing music and we're loving it, when it comes down to brass tacks, we're a small business trying to expand, and if you don't have guys with work ethic, it's it'll fall on its face with any business you're doing. And that's again, Brandon's been with me forever, but Jake, being the new addition to us, he came into practice the other night and asked me, well, we're going to start working on more originals and start doing this stuff, right? I was like, well, fuck yeah, we are. So to have someone, to have a group of guys that wants to push and push and push, I think we kind of reached that chemistry now where we got 4 guys that want to power through it and 4 guys that love the music as well as the practice time. I mean, I have a blast practicing every week. I think all of us do, but it's a small business and we're just pushing as hard as we can.
I think you hit so many nails on the head with that, because I was in radio for 20 years, got a chance to meet a lot of bands, and you'd have like a singer and a guitar player who would come in and they would stop in and do a station visit on tour. And then like the rest of the guys would be there and you're like, oh, hey, cool. It's it's the drummer and it's the lead guitar. And like the next time it'd be like the singer and the guitar player, but like, and a whole new group of people. And I was like, okay. And then the third time it'd be just the singer, and then all new artists or all new musicians around him. And I'm like, so when you have one guy that's driven in the band, that guy just keeps on going, and everybody else kind of gets left by the wayside. But what you guys have going on, it sounds like, is this cohesive unit that is all in, pushing all their cards into the middle of the table. Like, all right, let's make this stuff happen. I think that's a huge key to success, because I mean, if you're getting in a van or in a couple of trucks and hauling a trailer somewhere with a bunch of other dudes, like you have to be committed to that kind of stuff. Like you can't, you have to want that in order to be able to go through that after, a couple of days, a couple of weeks out on the road, things start to smell funky and you're like, I guess on to the next show.
I think these guys can talk to it, so I can shut up for a second. But I mean, I think both of them have played with musicians that are like, this is the guy, and you're kind of a supporting act.
Mm.
Being a drummer, I think I've never played like that. My only band I was in was in high school, and those guys, I mean, the drummer I played with in high school, I think he's played like the past 6 Warped Tours, but I haven't lived due to my military service and what I did civilian life. I hadn't done the band thing, but I know these guys, you've played with guys that are just like a front man, basically, and you're just drummer. So, I mean,
Yep.
I'm sure they could talk about the differences in how we kind of jive as opposed to just being a hired gun, I guess.
Yeah, how does that? I'm sure that lends itself really well, not obviously to the touring aspect of it, which hopefully gets geared back up here in 2021, but also to the writing process, because it feels like everybody is involved and has a say, and obviously the direction of the band, the sound you've got dialed in, but everybody, the unit feels like they're all like involved in the process. It's not just one dude's writing the song. It's like, here's the music, go and learn it, and then we're gonna play it. It seems like everybody's all in on that aspect too when it comes to songwriting and putting originals out.
Yeah, and I keep talking. I'm sorry. You
That's
guys
okay.
jump in if you say something. Yes, and I'll be the first to admit, I am not musically educated. Okay, I feel I'm a fair to decent rhythm guitar player, but these guys and Dave, like I said, I wish he could have made it tonight. They understand music, so it's kind of almost a comical. Like if real musicians were watching us try to come up with a song, they would think I'm a retard, because we'll start playing a riff, and I'll ask, Brandon will be like, "Well, play the fourth and play the," I'm like, "Dude, I don't know, does this sound cool?" So like the riffs that we've come up with, I've had to play them and be like, does this like sound right? Because it sounds cool to me. And then like Jake understands music, awesome. Brandon does, and so does Dave. I'm kind of the low end of that pole, but I bring a riff or something like that I've written, and then having these boys to where I could come up with something to where if I was hired musicians, like we were talking before about hired guns, I'm sure if he came in or they came in and I'd hire them just to play instruments, not be in my band, they'd want to know like the actual technical terms of what I'm playing. And me, I'm just like, I'm playing this really loud and it sounds cool, so pick something, play along with me. It's but having musically educated guys with me is helping me out. But as far as our writing process goes, Dave and I write a lot of the lyrics, because I talk a lot and I also think a lot and I kind of write a lot. But as far as the music, I could say like on our EP, those riffs, like the intros to the songs and stuff, I basically came up with the simple riff or the simple progression. And then I have to kind of step back and literally have Brandon or Jake or Dave tell me what to play next, because I could come up with a riff, but I don't know the musical theory behind what comes next. I'll play what sounds cool, but then these guys kind of massage it into something that is better than what I kind of came up with, but based on that, if that makes sense to anybody.
No, I get it. I mean, and that's a good, I think, to understand your role in it. You're like, okay, I got this part figured out, but then to like be open to like, okay, Brandon gave me this, Jake gave me this, and together you put out the music. And I feel like that's a good spot to be in, like just with the unity of the group. Like, hey, I'm done at this point, and if we just stop writing the song, it ends after the first 3 chords, and then we're done. But I think. But I think lyrically, though, I think there is a realness to what you guys are putting out, and that's that's a credit to the songwriting process. Is that it feels, and this is obviously just me and my musical taste, and it's quite eclectic, but like when I was jamming to you guys, after we chatted, I was like, this is like, it was noon, and I'm like, I feel like I should be drinking, and just, which, I mean, it's Wisconsin, so it's cool, but I was at work, so I probably shouldn't. But I feel like there's a real, I know you guys describe it as kind of this blue collar, real straight to the point music, and I think that's so spot on, because it feels like this is music made for either going on a drive somewhere in the country, or like after a long day, you just crank the shit up on the way home from work, you pick up a 12-pack and you call it a day. I mean, there's real grit to the songwriting, and I think it's, I really think it's what the world needs at this point, is a good sort of kick in the ass by 3 Gun Whiskey.
We'll provide it.
Free of charge, but buy a t-shirt, right?
Yeah, right.
Brandon, I wanted to, you do a great impression. I can't remember what the dude's name is, but that wears the bandana. He's always yelling at his phone before he goes and like drinks a bunch of pre-workout.
Oh, Robert Frank.
Robert Frank. Yeah. I saw you. I saw you jumped on the Instagram, and I was like, this looks like he's doing a Robert Frank impression, and you fucking nailed it, dude. That was so spot on. Like, I feel like there's a side gig for you there.
Oh yeah. I literally had just left the gym, and I had a really good workout, and I was all amped up, and I just like, screw it, I'm doing a little Robert Frank thing.
It was so perfect. I mean, there was spittle coming out too. I mean, aesthetically, you couldn't get any more spot on. I was like, wait a minute, this man is multi-talented. Oh, we got Cobra's jumping in on the comments. Big fan watching from Germany. Cobra Commander.
I think that's my boy DJ.
Watching over in Germany.
Yeah. I've known that man. Me and that boy been through some stuff. So he's good people.
Awesome. And let's see, Joe's jumping on here. Just listening to the guys a few days ago for the first time. They are freaking awesome. So getting some Wisconsin fans jumping on and digging the tunes. But I think and we're both kind of in like these bluer collar states. So I think the music lends itself to it. But how hard has it been not being able to get out and get back on the road and do some shows? Has that been the most difficult challenge over the last year that we've been going through this shit?
Absolutely, Jake.
Yeah.
Jake, you've.
I mean, the last show I played before them had signs up that said "No dancing allowed," at the shows, and it blows my mind still. Like that's half the reason I'm there. Is to get people up and moving and having a good time. And granted, that was the last show before COVID shut everything down. And it's just glad to be back.
It's
yeah.
I mean, we want to go. We want to go play. And I think that we've done very good. Not only it sounds cheesy, but because we love to play, we never stopped practicing. We never stopped doing anything. And when we were 2 months into COVID, I'm like, well, it's going to open up in another couple of weeks. We need to be like ready to go play a tight show and not miss anything. And then that couple months turned into 6 months. We never stopped practicing, but it kept going and kept going and kept going. And I enjoy practicing because I enjoy playing, but it's much better to share it with people. So it's extremely frustrating, and it's we're starting to book some stuff into June, into July, and into August now. And I think I'm not a bar owner, but I would hate to be in the position of wanting to grab bands to come play, or bigger venues to grab people, but not knowing if you're going to be allowed to do it. Because they got to get theirs too. They got to make their money, but they're kind of in a bad spot. And everybody's screwed because of it. And I just want to see it go away and let us go have our fun. And Dave had COVID, and we've all been fine, thank God. I know some people haven't been, but we just want to go play. And if people want to come listen to us, come listen to us. But it's frustrating because we work our asses off at it, and we want to go share it.
Do you think there's a silver lining a little bit? I mean, it's tough to say, because I know that as great as it is to write songs and to put together new music and to get the guys together to practice and really hone in on that craft, really perfect, the show. Because like you said, if you're anticipating, hey, things are going to open back up in 2 weeks, tighten the show up, get everything right, and then it's 2 weeks later, and it's 6 months later, and it's a year later. Um, there's good parts of that because you can learn from things. But do you think that because you've had a year not playing shows, but you still have been after it as far as the rehearsals go and as far as the writing process goes, that when the dog gets let out of the cage, as I like to say, that it's just going to be, balls to the wall, the best show you guys have ever done?
I'm hoping so. I mean, I don't know what do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, I would agree. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll see what we've been doing during quarantine, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think things, they just keep getting tighter and tighter. And I know, playing, practicing all the time, not playing any shows. It's like, man, we're going to do anything different, but the repetition of practice just makes everything that much better, even though sometimes it's like, oh, this song again. But it's good to have that. Like I said, we want to go out and put on the best show we can, And I was going to say something, when we're talking about not being able to play, it's almost the places that have been having shows. It's almost kind of, I mean, not to the same degree, but kind of like the Prohibition era a little bit. But like I've noticed, like signs on walls, places, saying not to take any pictures, not to post anything on social media. They got the freaking windows blocked off. They got, because like around here, people have been afraid of like health departments and stuff coming in and shutting everything down. So it's it's kind of a little bit of an outlaw thing, not quite to the same level as Prohibition, but I don't know. It's like you're trying to get away with something, which is probably probably helps with the crowds a little bit, because they're it's everyone's sick of this whole pandemic, and which I think is going to help a lot, because I would have to say, like one of the neighboring one of the bigger towns, their music scene has been dead. But I think live music is going to start making a bigger comeback this year, because no one's been able to have it for such a long time. And I think we had a show Saturday in that particular town, and we had a great crowd.
Yeah,
it might come back harder than it's going to come back better. And not to sound, I don't know, I guess someone's call me cocky or whatnot, but we're going to outlast. I mean, there's a lot of bands that have kind of, said, well, COVID, we're not going to practice, we're not going to do this. And it's going to take them 6 to 8 months to get their shit back in one sock so they can play. And we're going to beat them to the punch all day long. Not that, we support our fellow musicians, but we're also going to get what we got coming. We've been busting our ass and still going after it. And I'm, my plan is to reap those rewards. We worked our asses off. We practiced during COVID. We did all this stuff. We wrote, we put out an EP, and by God, we worked. So we need to go out and get those gigs and play. The guys that wanted to half-ass it and whine about it, then that's on you, man. You want to sit at home and cry about COVID instead of practice, and then when the gigs come and you're not ready, or you go play a shitty show, that's on nobody but you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw, like, right out of the gate, it's coming up on a year now. There was a lot of anticipation that this was going to be a short-lived thing, and in 2 weeks it's going to be, things are going to open back up. But as time went on, you definitely saw a lot less, at least social media wise, a lot less interaction. You had guys that were doing, okay, we're gonna do some acoustic stuff, do some live streaming shows, and then all of a sudden their content just kind of went down, and you felt the curve happen when they just started to go, well, now it's 6 months, now it's 8 months, and I think, like you said, like they kind of stopped giving a shit, and then like, well, we're gonna wait till something opens back up, and then we'll start to ramp back up. But the way you guys did it, keeping after it week after week as extensions came on and things were still closed down, yeah, you're like freshly oiled. And once those things get open back up, you got to be the first in. I mean, we've been after it. We've been kicking ass. We got new music. We've been doing all these things during COVID. I absolutely believe you guys should get the first crack at going to these venues and blowing the doors off, man.
That's our plan. We didn't do any of the live streaming, basically because we're a full rock band. I mean, we play hard, we play loud. I didn't have the extra $2,800 or $3,000 to invest in the proper interfaces and everything we needed to make the way we sound, even in our practice studio, which we're now, to make that come across the internet and not sound like it was recorded with an iPhone 4. We never got audio that I was happy with putting out there. So we just stayed away from, some of those guys did awesome on the live stream stuff, and I watched so much of it, but we didn't go that route. We stuck to what we were doing and just tried to make, as far as social media goes, try to make our followers and our community that's with us understand what we were doing. But we didn't put on the Friday evening hour acoustic show. Not knocking anybody that did, but we just, for us, that wasn't fitting in, to use the modern term, it wasn't fitting in our vibe to have something that was kind of, half-ass out there. Because if I was going to do that, I would think we would want, as a group, something that sounded like us, as opposed to dumbed down. And to mix a full band on an internet live stream is a very difficult thing, and we just didn't have the equipment, to do it. So I didn't want to put out crap material.
No, I think there was bands that did that that were like, we don't care, we're going to do it on the iPhone 4, and people tuned in because there was the fans have missed out big time as well, because they want to go to see live shows, they want to go and discover new artists and have that camaraderie in their life with other music fans, and be at a bar and get beer spilled on them. And, the good old days, like early last year, remember back then? That was fun. But there was bands that put out some live stream stuff, and you're like, no, somebody should have thought this through. Like, Jed should have called you and say, don't, no, like, unless you have it all figured out, don't put this stuff out. Cause it's so tough. Because people could listen on their computer, or they're listening on their phone, and you're never going to get really good sound quality unless you're like streaming it on your TV, and then you have the surround sound. Then you can get the vibe. But it's so tough to pull off that live show that actually sounds halfway decent. So I think that's that's a smart move to not go, we're not going to put shit out there just for the sake of putting shit out there and see if anybody wants to step in it. Cause it that can come back on you and be like, oh, that's the band that did the really shitty live stream. I couldn't hear anything cause Brandon was slapping that bass so loud. But I think there's hope. I think are you guys having some restrictions opened up down there? I mean, you talked about playing in, a town nearby. Are you starting to see some availability come open where you can go out and play some shows and start to line some things up? You talked about summer, but what about in the immediate future? What are you guys seeing?
In Illinois, where we're at, we have seen some bars open, and like Jake was just mentioning to me, we've been playing some of in his hometown. There's a bar, and they literally said,
they haven't shut down.
Yeah, ever,
like since it started.
So, and Brandon mentioned too, like, we have played some places that are pretty kind of, F the, the plans. We're staying open, and that's kind of what kept us afloat the past few months.
Yeah.
Things are starting to open up pretty decently now, and it's kind of a goofy thing, trying to promote a show, and been like scared to put the show out on the face space and the Instagram, because you don't want that bar owner who is gracious enough to hire you to come play a show. I don't want to put a poster up on Facebook and he ended up getting shut down because I wanted to try to get a few extra people to the show. But yeah, restrictions are starting to open up. There's a place down in Kentucky we played, and some other places where I keep reaching out to them every couple months to be like, hey, are you guys opening up yet? You opening up yet? And it seems like things are starting to loosen, but not the way I want to,
right.
Hope we don't have to drive to Texas to play shows, but we got to.
Texas wide open. Texas gives zero fucks. They're like, no, we're open now, and everybody can come on down. And Mississippi is the same way. They just opened up 100%. So I think, I was just talking to Dr. J about this before, and I think I even talked to to Warren about it when he was on. I was like, people are watching Texas with a hawk eye, and they want to see in 14 days from the 10th, so on whatever the 24th, after 2 weeks of everything being open and a bunch of bands that have gone out and toured the state, because if venues are open, bands are lining up tour routes through the state of Texas. People are going to watch, and if 2 weeks goes by and there's no like major outbreak and nobody's freaking out, and other states that are surrounding Texas, and hopefully it makes its way as far north as we are going to start going, you know what? We're open for business. They're going to kill off so many venues if you start to get into spring and summer and these venues are still at, 25% cap or closed. You're going to lose them if you don't open them back up. So hopefully Texas is the slippery slope that everybody falls down. All of a sudden things start to open up and you guys can line some things up for, getting into 2021, which I know you already have done.
Yeah, we can only hope, man.
Gotta keep our fingers crossed, because the fans need live music. I've said this a million times on this program. I'm like, as soon as they start doing shows, nobody's missing a fucking concert now. They're not. It's on a Tuesday. I got work in the morning. Everybody's going, this shit got taken away from us. Like on it one day, it just went boom, and they were gone for a year. Nobody's missing a show. So hopefully we can get you guys up in this neck of the woods too, and cause some trouble in the great state of Wisconsin, because we need some trouble caused up here.
We've had some fun up there. I think we did. I don't know if you heard of Dallas Moore.
Mm.
We opened for him up there, and we opened for Jackson Taylor and the Sinners up there in both shows in Green Bay. We had a blast up there.
Oh yeah.
So I was blown away. I don't know. Have you been to Green Bay before?
Yeah, I've been.
Yeah, like I was.
Go back, go.
Yeah. It's not a big town,
No.
We stayed. I think we're like a couple blocks from Lambeau Field there. And I was blown away on how small of a town it was, just to have the Packers there. But I love Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's a really unique community, I think, and obviously being over there for mostly games, but I have some relatives that live on that side of the state. Like if you go there on a game day, it feels a little more metropolitan, because there's 80,000 extra people in town. But you go there like a random Tuesday, you get that, like, there's a giant football stadium, and then there's like little houses right across the street, and like little town bars, and but then they have like the Resch Center and some bigger venues in there. But it's a great music town, and I got some buddies that play over there, at a couple different places, and they love it because those fans come out. I think they're just so used to being out and going and doing things in Green Bay, because I mean, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah,
So they love going to shows, and there's some great venues over there. So and we have some over here on this side of the state too, and a lot of them have done kind of the same thing that you're talking about in Illinois, where they haven't closed down. Some things have happened, but it's like the speakeasies, like just things just kind of happen, and you're like, wait, what? Like, did I not get on the special message list for these undercover shows? But I think they have to do that in order to survive, because you've seen so many venues across the country that have just closed the doors and probably won't open again ever, which is a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, I don't know what these real big guys that are, obviously I think we're talking kind of, shows where we got, 500 cap venue, but the guys that were making their bread, not that I feel super sorry for them, because they're where I want to be, but the guys that are making their breads playing arenas. I'm hoping we're open up to 500 cap shows soon. But I don't know what these boys are going to do that are making their money playing arenas. I don't know how far off that type of stuff is.
I think there's
big music festivals. I don't know. I know there's been a couple festivals around here that I've heard have already canceled, and I'd like to see the big festivals come back, big venues.
Yeah, I'm a part of. I work for 2 major music festivals up here during the day, and then and during festival season too. And I know we're full ahead steam, with our 2 big festivals that we have up here. But there's a weird vibe in the industry about the bands and the big ships, I call them. Like that, there was a meme that came out early on in COVID. It's like, we're all in this together. And the second meme that came out was like, some people are on giant cruise ships and some people are on paddle boats. So we're all in the water together, but we're not necessarily floating down, in the same lap of luxury. But there's some band on the cruise ship that are totally cool, like taking the year off. They're like, yeah, whatever. We're going to take the year off. And everybody else on the paddle boats is like, give me a show and give me a show now. It's a weird dichotomy. So, those 500 cap rooms, they are going to be the launching pad, I think, for a lot of artists as you go through this, because there's going to be some openings on the steps to move up a little bit in the genres, in different places to play, because some of the bigger bands are like, I don't want to play.
Yeah, I think no doubt it's going to create voids, just like we talked about some bands that aren't practicing. I think there's going to be bigger name guys that are willing to, bring it down to brass tacks and play small rooms again.
Mm-hmm.
But there's going to be a void in there someplace that's going to need to be filled. And if these guys need to make, that's the other thing too, is, we haven't really talked about like being an independent artist. I mean, we're not paying anybody anything.
Right.
So I can't say no. I cannot show up unless you give me $8,000. I could simply send a text like, "Hey, you boys good with this amount for this show?" And usually the answer is, "Yeah, let's go have fun."
Yeah.
If we were paying 15 different people to do different stuff, from managers to to label, whoever, we would have that thing that we can't go below. There'd be no way to do it. But I think the void is going to be filled by the independent artists. I mean, because we go play a show, we're paying ourselves, we pay the band, we pay our sound guy, and that money is ours. It goes into the 3 Gun Whiskey bank account, and that is for us. We're not divvying that out 15, 20 different places. And I think the guys that are started getting into that game where they're divvying out money to try to get a bigger name back in 19, I think they're really sucking hind tit right now, because they're thinking, how am I going to pay 12 different people, the people that do my YouTube, the people that do my, when they start dividing that all up, they're not going to be able to play without a certain dollar line, and the venues can't afford it when they're just starting back up.
Yeah, and I think that that void may be 6 months. I mean, even after things get open back up, it may be a long time before you have a venue, even at a decent cap size, that can afford to pay, the flat rate, so that band can pay the 15 people underneath them, from the merch girl to, whoever else. And I think when I've talked to artists who are on labels and talked to artists who are independent, and even some big bands that have taken kind of back control of their own music and their own, they handle everything in house. They don't have those 15 people in their lives. They are immensely happier being able to call the shots on where they play. And, they're like, yeah, kind of the same thing you were talking about, Jed, is that they called the guys, are like, hey, we got an opportunity to do this show, and here's the pay. And they're like, yeah, let's go and do it. Instead of having to have, the manager needs to get paid, and this guy needs to get paid, and the guy who irons the clothes before we go on stage needs to get paid. They are immensely happier because they have total control over what they're doing, not only with their music, but they can go out. If they want to put together a short run, they can do a short run. They want to do a one-off, they can do a one-off. They're in complete control, and they get to set their own prices, which, and all these venues that want to start off just to get people back in the door, those are the ones that are going to be like, yep, come on in and play. Here's what we have to offer. And if the bands that come and play, maybe they get the next gig, and then they get the next gig, then they get an opening slot, then they're the headliner. And it just, the trickle down effect, I think, is going to be magnified because of COVID, and those bands that are taking off, and the bands that are like, no, I have 30 people to pay before we can actually book a show. They're going to be struggling. 3 Gun Whiskey is going to be out drinking them and kicking everybody else's ass. Facts, dropping facts on you. Hey, gents, I want to say thanks for jumping on the program here. Jed, thanks for getting the guys together. I know it was just going to be you and me, but I'm glad that you wrangled the fellas in to chat about music and the direction of the band. And I want to say, and I got more comments coming in here. Yep, it's DJ. That's who Cobra Commander is. Okay. Joe says, coming up here and play. Yep, the offer is extended. Come on up here, and we'll put a show together. But thank you for the sound too. I think the fact that you're doing it with no specific genre, you kind of own all the lanes. Like if this is a 4-lane highway, like you guys have all 4 lanes covered. So thank you for like sticking true to the music that you want to make, and keep pounding, because you're doing it the right way. I mean, you're working your asses off and doing it how it should be done. And I'm excited to see you guys live and do a show and probably a couple of shots and make bad life choices together.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. 3 Gun Whiskey. Tell people where they can find you on the socials.
We got our Facebook is just 3 Gun Whiskey. Our Instagram is 3GW Country. For some reason, the algorithm of Instagram thought whiskey would be bad, and mixed with gun was just anti whatever. So yeah, Instagram did not like the guns and the whiskey mixed together. Yeah. So we got 3GW Country on Instagram and 3 Gun Whiskey on Facebook. We have a TikTok account that I'm trying to get rolling a little bit. It's got some fun stuff on there, but nothing too. One good one of this boy's sleeping. I don't know if you watched it. We were driving back from somewhere, and I was the only one awake, and probably shouldn't have been. And it's like a quick video of everybody just ass out in the truck
somewhere in South Dakota.
Yeah, somewhere in South Dakota. But yeah, so we got the Instagram and the Facebook, the TikTok. I think I got a Twitter, but I haven't logged into it in a bit. But yeah, that's where we're at. We got a online store you can get on our Facebook. Hit the shop now button. It's in the link to our bio. We got couple different styles shirts. We got hats, koozies, stickers, whole 9 yards. And that I know you've had other artists talk about it, but our gas money, luckily we play music to where we get booze for free normally. So we don't have to worry about supporting our habits, but the merch sale is our gas money. That hotels, that's what gets us out on the road, gets us moving. And so we got some pretty cool shirts, I think. Get on there. But yeah, that's where we're at, the Facebook and the Instagram. We're trying to build that Instagram up because we just started that a lot later than we started our Facebook. But that's where you can find us. And we got CDs available.
Awesome.
Our music's on all the stream platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, everything like that. We got a couple demo versions of the song Dusty Roads and Battered in Blue. And then we got the EP, which has been re-recorded, much faster, heavier, harder. That's on our 5-song EP we just released. That's self-titled 3 Gun Whiskey EP is how you find that. Yeah.
Go and support these fellas. We'll Joe throwing up some devil horns. Thanks, Joe. But no, I love the sound. I love the look. I love everything about it. And I love the fact that the Instagram police shut you down. That means you're doing it right. If the Instagram police are saying, that means you're doing it right. That's how my thought is. Awesome. Hey, thanks, fellas. Take care of yourselves. And again, hopefully we'll see you up here sometime soon. We'll get you up and do a show, and all the good things will happen.
Absolutely, man. Good talking.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. 3 Gun Whiskey on the program. If you haven't checked them out yet, please go and do so. They just give you the links to all their socials and their music. And the self-titled the EP is fantastic. I was jamming to it at work, and like I said, it made me want to drink and have a good time. So want to see him out at a live show around here. So if any of my venue friends are watching on any of the socials right now, Facebook Live, on Instagram, or on Twitch, follow these fellas and then get them up here to do a show so we can make, like I said, bad life choices together. To all of you who are tuned in, thank you so much for being a part of Cooperville Live. Tomorrow we're having an early show. It is St. Patrick's Day Eve, which I celebrate. It's like Christmas Eve, only the presents are different. They come in liquid form. Usually it's Jameson and just Jameson. So join the show early tomorrow. Holiday State is going to be on the program. The brothers are going to be on. They're going to be talking. We're going to do some music. And then they have a show. They're actually doing a show, I think, in Nashville on St. Patrick's Day. So we'll talk to them about that. That starts at 3 p.m. tomorrow. I'm taking a day off of work to come in and do the show early. And you can join us again on all the social media platforms that I just mentioned. Thank you for your continued support. Don't forget to jump onto that Patreon and become a part of the free speech revolution that we got going on here on Cooperville Live. Appreciate you. Until we meet again tomorrow, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another.